For as long as I can remember, I was the dependable one. The helper. The good daughter. The one who picked up the phone, paid the bill, smoothed over the tension, and kept the peace, even when it cost me. Especially when it cost me. This story isn't about a single fight or a bad holiday dinner. It's about what happens when family becomes a weight you're expected to carry quietly. When love comes with conditions. When respect is never offered, only demanded. And when the role you've been cast in, the provider, the problem solver, the one who never needs anything, starts to suffocate you. It took one uncomfortable Thanksgiving dinner, a forgotten gift, and a punchline made out of my name to finally wake me up. What followed wasn't a dramatic explosion. It was a quiet rebellion. A decision to stop funding my own mistreatment. To stop paying for access to people who saw my worth only in what I could give. This is the story of how I reclaim my boundaries. How I turn silence into strength. And how I learned that saying no is not cruelty, it's clarity. If you've ever been told to be grateful just for being in the room, this story is for you. My name is Amina Reed. I'm 31 years old, and I live alone in a modest studio in East Haven, a gritty part of New Durham. About a month ago, I drove 5 hours south to my childhood town of Elmswood for what my mama insists on calling our Christmas dinner in November. It's her tradition. She says it's easier when everybody's off work, and she likes to beat the holiday traffic. Twice on that drive, I seriously thought about turning around. But guilt is a strange kind of gas. It'll get you farther than love sometimes. I showed up with a sweet potato pie I baked from scratch, and a smile that didn't touch my spirit. The dinner? Chaotic. Loud voices, plates clinking, the game blasting from the den. Everybody talking like this was some glossy feel-good movie. My two sisters were chatting and laughing, my uncles arguing about stats. It was a familiar noise, almost comforting, until it wasn't. Once the dishes were cleared and folks started leaning back, patting their stomachs, Mama stood up like she was hosting a church fundraiser. She clapped her hands and said, "Okay, y'all know what time it is." And from under the table, she pulled out a big silver gift bag full of wrapped presents. She went around the room, handing them out with flair and pride. My dad got a fancy monogrammed robe. One of my sisters got a charm necklace with her kids' initials. The other got a massage package and a cute purse. Even my cousin Kira, who hadn't been around in years, got a Bluetooth speaker. I waited. Of course, I assumed she had something for me. Why wouldn't she? But when the bag was empty and she still hadn't glanced my way, I leaned over and said, as cool as I could manage, "Hey, did I miss one?" She didn't blink. "You should be grateful just to be here," she said, sipping her sweet tea like she hadn't just sliced me open. And my Uncle Rudy, always ready with a joke, added, "Shoot, we lucky we still remember you." The table roared with laughter, like it was all just good fun. My cheeks burned, but I didn't cry, didn't flip the table. I just smiled, nodded, and said, "Got it." Later that night, I left without saying goodbye and drove back to New Durham in silence. And that was the moment I decided something had to change. I didn't know what yet, but I was done. When I got back, I walked into my apartment, dropped my keys, and threw the pie, untouched, into the trash. I sat on the floor in the dark and stared at my phone. I thought about sending a long, cold message in our family group chat, telling them how embarrassing that dinner had been, how I felt like an afterthought. But I knew what they'd say, that I was being sensitive, dramatic, ungrateful. So instead, I texted the one person I knew would understand, my best friend Trina. She called me almost instantly. I told her everything. About the dinner, the gifts, Mama's words, the laughter that followed. When I finished, Trina was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Amina, that's not just rude. That's straight-up disrespect. That ain't love. That's power." Her words settled deep in my chest. While we were still on the phone, I opened my banking app. I didn't even know why at first, just a reflex. But then I started scrolling through the transactions. Monthly gym dues, movie streaming services, grocery delivery, ride shares, autopay after autopay with my name, but not my usage. It hit me like a wave. For years, I'd been funding their lifestyle in little invisible ways. Always being the go-to when someone needed to put something on my card just this once. But once never really meant once. I was the backbone of a family that didn't even see me as a person, just a resource. Trina asked, What if you just stopped? I didn't answer, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. That weekend, I grabbed my laptop and a notebook. I made a list of everything. Mama's gym membership, Daddy's streaming accounts, Keisha's concert tickets, Tanika's surprise trip to the amusement park with her twins, the gas money borrowed and never returned. One by one, I started canceling. Click. Cancel. Click. Remove payment method. Each confirmation email felt like shedding dead weight. I didn't send a dramatic announcement to the family group chat. I just let their luxuries unravel in silence. No more handouts, no more invisible support. If they needed something, they could call their providers, not me. A few days later, Mama called while I was on break at work. No small talk. Amina, my gym card got declined this morning. Did something happen to the payment? My voice barely shook. Yeah, I canceled it. You'll need to set it up in your own name. She paused, clearly stunned. You know I need that for my health, right? I count on that. I replied, and I counted on you to treat me with respect. I'm not paying for people who laugh at me. She inhaled sharply, like I'd slapped her. That night, Daddy called too. The shows ain't loading, he said, clearly annoyed. Something wrong with the account. No, I said. It's just not mine anymore. You're grown. Y'all can handle your own stuff. There was a long pause. Then he muttered, Family's supposed to take care of each other. Exactly, I said. That goes both ways. From there, things spiraled. The group chat started heating up with messages that weren't directed at me, but were obviously about me. Keisha sent a quote card about how money can't buy family. Tanika added something about people forgetting their roots. I just muted the chat and decided right then and there I wasn't going back for Christmas. I wasn't playing that role anymore. The one where I smile through disrespect and pay for my seat at the table. They didn't know it yet, but I had changed. And they were about to find out just how much. After I decided not to return to Elmswood for Christmas, I expected silence. Maybe a little cold shoulder treatment, a guilt trip text or two. But I underestimated just how deep their entitlement ran. Once their comfort started slipping away, they didn't sulk, they scrambled. It began quietly. The first few days after I stopped the auto-pays, there was radio silence. But that didn't last. I was at work, trying to focus on an ad pitch, when the group chat lit up like fireworks. My phone buzzed, so much I thought it was an emergency. Mama had sent a long message, written like a sermon. She said she couldn't sleep since the gym incident, said her blood pressure was up, claimed I was jeopardizing her health over a petty grudge. She didn't say Amina, but she didn't need to. Her tone was thick with accusation. Then Daddy chimed in, talking about how he and Mama had sacrificed everything so I could live my fancy life in New Durham. He made it sound like my degree and career were debts I hadn't paid back. As if success was a contract, and I had broken the fine print. My sisters jumped in next. Keisha wrote, Imagine choosing a Hulu account over your own mama, which was funny considering she used it more than anybody. Tanika added a crying emoji, a broken heart, and you used to be nice. Same script, different tone. I sat there at my desk, my heart thudding, staring at the flood of messages. I flipped my phone face down and muted the chat again. The vibrating didn't stop, but at least I didn't have to read it. 10 minutes later, Trina texted me screenshots. Girl, you seeing this? It was from Tanika's Instagram. A post on her story with a black background and bold white text. Some folks will cut off family over a few bills. Money don't buy loyalty. Under it, a broken heart emoji, prayer hands, and the hashtag family first. No tags, no names. But she didn't have to tag me. Half our family followed both of us. Everyone knew. Mama had commented on the post. So sad but true. Love you, baby. Some people just lose their way. A cousin replied, Blood is everything. Another added, People change when they get a little success. And someone else wrote, Y'all the strongest family I know. I should have laughed, but it stung. They were rewriting the whole story in real time. Painting themselves as wounded saints and me as the villain who turned her back on her roots for a few city lights and a checking account. Not one of them mentioned the dinner. Not the part where I was excluded. Not the jokes. Not the years of quiet money transfers, and just this one time, calls that never ended. I locked my phone and sat there, staring at nothing. My coworkers typed away at their keyboards around me. I felt small and exposed, like my whole life had been opened up for judgment by people who didn't know the first thing about me. But under all that, something was shifting. I wasn't ashamed anymore. That night, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table and pulled up my banking app. If they wanted to talk about obligation and sacrifice, then fine. Let's talk numbers. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't gaslight. I pulled 5 years of transactions, line after line of charges that weren't for me. Gym payments, yoga classes, streaming subscriptions, weekend trips I didn't go on, emergency expenses that were never repaid, last-minute concert tickets for the kids that hit my account at 11:58 p.m. I opened a spreadsheet, created columns, notes, color-coded by family member. I added up totals. With every sum, I remember the exact moment I said yes when I wanted to say no. It wasn't a few nice things. It was a pattern. I had been their emergency fund, their safety net, their convenience. And they had repaid me in silence and mockery. When the total hit a number I didn't want to believe, I stopped. I sat there staring at the screen, my breath shallow. This was not generosity. This was exploitation. So I drafted an email. Subject line: "Since we're talking about what's owed." I stared at that line for a long time before I began typing. I told them I appreciated what they had done for me growing up. The roof, the food, the rides, the foundation. I wasn't claiming I raised myself, but I also said that what I owed them did not include a lifetime of financial submission, quiet tolerance, and silence in the face of disrespect. Then I pasted the spreadsheet total beneath it. I didn't demand repayment. I didn't call anyone a thief. I didn't threaten. I just wrote, "If you're going to call me ungrateful for finally saying no, please look at this and ask yourself, who's really been taking care of whom?" My hands shook when I hit send. But at the same time, I felt like I had just dropped a bag I'd been carrying since I was a teenager. A weight I didn't realize had carved itself into my spine. Mama's response came less than an hour later. All caps in the subject. "How dare you?" She wrote a wall of text. Said my spreadsheet was manipulative and disgusting. Accused me of putting a price on her love. Said I was cruel for throwing money in her face after all she had done for me. She ended it with, "I'm ashamed of who you've become." Then she blocked me on Facebook. I found out through Trina that less than 30 minutes later, Mama had posted a quote image. "Family is forever, even when some people forget." Under it, her caption talked about staying strong through hurt and being grateful for the children who still understand loyalty. Her comments were full of sympathy and praise. "You're such a strong mother. Don't let anybody tear your family down. Your kids are blessed to have you." None of those people knew. They didn't know the Netflix nights she bragged about were paid by the daughter she humiliated. That every yoga class she claimed as self-care had been quietly funded by me. That night, I lay in bed shaking with fury. But beneath the rage, there was something clearer than ever before. They weren't going to see me differently. Not on their own. They needed the old me. The doormat with a smile. The wallet with a heartbeat. The one who never pushed back. So I did the only thing I could. I controlled what they could access. My money. My time. My peace. My silence. And I prepared myself. Because once people like that lose control, they don't go quiet. They go louder. And soon, they come knocking. I thought the email would be the end of it. I honestly did. I figured they'd be furious, talk trash about me at church or over drinks, maybe paint me as the ungrateful daughter for a while, and then eventually move on. That's usually how it went. I underestimated how much they depended on me, not just financially, but emotionally. Losing my money was one thing. Losing control over me was another. As more of their subscriptions expired and demanded new payment methods, their tone shifted. The passive-aggressive social media posts slowed. The calls became more frantic. The guilt trips turned into panic. A week after I canceled everything, my phone started ringing nonstop in the middle of a workday. I ignored it until my voicemail filled up. Mama left one message after another, her voice shaky, talking about stress, headaches, how her doctor warned her that emotional strain could do serious damage. She asked if that was what I wanted, to make her sick. Daddy followed with colder messages. He said I was breaking the family apart, that I owe them a face-to-face conversation because they raised me. When I didn't respond, they started calling from unfamiliar local numbers. I picked one up by mistake, thinking it was a client. "So you do know how to answer the phone," Mama said. I hung up immediately. Then Uncle Reggie joined the rotation. He left voicemails about how you can't cancel family like a streaming service, how one day I'd need them, and how pride always comes before a fall. Online, Keisha posted another vague video about being abandoned by people who choose money and strangers over blood. No names. But the caption, "Sometimes the people closest to you hurt the most," made it obvious. Strangers flooded her comments with support, told her to cut off toxic people. The irony almost made me choke. That same week, the real-world fallout started hitting them. Mama called, panicked, about the gym wanting a sign-up fee and a new card. She said yoga was the only thing keeping her calm and asked how I could take that away from her. A cousin told me Daddy was complaining loudly at his social club about kids who treat parents like banks. Another relative mentioned Uncle Reggie had been unusually quiet lately. I opened my spreadsheet again and added a new column. I labeled it behavior. Calls, voicemails, social posts, guilt tactics, surprise visits. Seeing it laid out like that made everything painfully clear. This wasn't a rough patch. It was a system, and I'd stepped out of it. A few days before Christmas, things moved from digital to physical. I came home with grocery bags and saw my parents' car parked out front. My stomach dropped. When I reached my floor, Mama, Daddy, and Uncle Reggie were standing in front of my apartment like a wall. "There she is," Mama said loudly. "You feel proud calling security on your own parents." I set the bags down, keys clenched in my hand. "You're not supposed to be here," I said. "You need to leave." Daddy crossed his arms. "We're not leaving. We drove all this way to talk. You owe us that." Mama launched into a speech about how they were trying to save the family while I hid in my little box and treated them like enemies. Uncle Reggie leaned against the wall, smirking, asking if I really thought my neighbors cared about me more than my own blood. "You don't cancel blood," he said. "Blood doesn't give you permission to harass me," I replied. "I told you to stop coming here." Mama scoffed and accused me of twisting everything to make them look abusive. Daddy stepped closer, crowding my space. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You're coming home with us for Christmas. This ends now." My voice shook, but I stood firm. "No, you're harassing me." Mama slammed her hand against the door next to my head, making me flinch. She started yelling about everything they'd given me and how I owed them. Uncle Reggie saw me recoil and smiled, then put his hand on my shoulder, pushing just enough to send a message. Something inside me went cold. "Do not touch me again," I said loud and clear. I pulled out my phone and called building security. I told them my family was back, refusing to leave, and that someone had put their hands on me. The guard arrived quickly. He listened to both sides, then looked at them. "She lives here. She's asked you to leave. You need to go. If you come back, we'll involve the police." Mama cried. Daddy muttered about ungrateful children. Uncle Reggie shot me a look that promised this wasn't over. Later that evening, building management emailed me documenting the incident. They made it clear my family wasn't allowed back without permission. For the first time, there was something official, something on paper, proof that this wasn't just family drama. I wanted to believe that would stop them. It didn't. That visit wasn't the end. It was just a warning shot. And next time, they wouldn't just bring guilt and anger. They'd bring desperation, and that's when things would get dangerous. After the incident in the hallway, I thought, finally, maybe now they'll stop. I thought being escorted out by security would humiliate them enough to leave me alone. For 3 days, it was quiet. The family group chat slowed down to cryptic messages about forgiveness and family unity. Keisha posted a Bible verse about the prodigal child returning home. Tanika shared a tweet that read, "When someone hurts you, pray for them anyway." I muted the chat. Again, I went back to work, met up with Trina for coffee. I let myself imagine a peaceful Christmas for the first time in years. Just me, Trina, takeout, bad holiday movies. No drama, no guilt, but control doesn't surrender easily. And silence from people who thrive on chaos. It never lasts. The call started again. Voicemails filled with crying, complaints, emotional blackmail. Mama said she was losing sleep, her blood pressure was spiking, and her doctor warned her about stress-related illness. "Is this what you want?" she asked, as if my boundaries were a death sentence. Daddy's tone hardened. "You're breaking us," he said. "You owe us this conversation. We raised you." When I stopped answering, they found new ways to reach me. Random local numbers. Voicemails left from coworkers' phones. I picked up one thinking it was a delivery, and there she was. "You still answer the phone when it suits you," Mama said coldly. Click. I hung up. Then Uncle Reggie got creative. A voicemail. "You can't unsubscribe from your own people, Amina. One day you're gonna fall, and guess who won't be there to catch you?" Meanwhile, the practical fallout was landing. Mama's gym emailed her about needing a new payment method and a reactivation fee. She called me furious. Daddy started ranting to anyone who'd listen at his golf club about how kids these days treat their parents like bill collectors. Trina sent me another set of Instagram screenshots, Keisha crying on live, talking about the sibling she lost to pride. People in the comments told her to cut toxic people off, even if they're family. Nobody mentioned who'd been paying for all those little extras over the years. I updated my spreadsheet again, added a column for harassment. Calls, posts, doorstep confrontations. Looking at it all in one place reminded me this wasn't new. It had just stopped working for them. Then, right before Christmas, they came back. I came home one afternoon with a bag of groceries and immediately spotted their car outside the building again. My heart dropped. My stomach twisted. When I stepped onto my floor, there they were, the same trio, Mama, Daddy, and Uncle Reggie, waiting like they owned the hallway. Mama's voice cut through the air. "There you are. You feel powerful now. Calling security on your parents." Daddy's jaw was tight. Uncle Reggie leaned against the wall like he was waiting for popcorn. I set my bag down. My keys stayed in my hand. "You're not supposed to be here," I said firmly. "You've been told that." "We're not leaving," Daddy said. "We're not going to let you cut us off like strangers. We came to fix this." "Fix what?" I asked. "The part where you publicly humiliated me, then acted like I owed you for it." Mama's voice rose. "We're still fighting for this family. You sent that disrespectful email. You froze us out and made us look like monsters." I heard doors open down the hallway, neighbors peeking. My face flushed, but I didn't back down. Uncle Reggie stepped forward, gesturing toward the other apartments. "You really think these people care about you more than we do?" "They don't yell at me in the hallway," I replied. "They don't put hands on me either." Mama's lip curled. "Nobody put hands on you," she spat. "You twist everything." Then I noticed Miss Beverly, my neighbor 2 doors down, standing quietly with her phone in her hand, camera facing them. Our eyes met. She gave me a small, steady nod. "I see you. I see all of it." Daddy stepped closer until I felt the cold metal of my door behind my back. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You're packing a bag. You're coming home. This ends now." My palms were sweating, but my voice was steady. "No. I've told you to leave. This is harassment." Then Mama slammed her palm against the doorframe, inches from my face. I flinched. Uncle Reggie saw it and smiled. "You call this harassment?" he said. He grabbed my shoulder again, just enough to shift me away from the lock. I shoved his hand off. "Don't touch me again," I said loudly. My voice echoed down the hall. And then, thank God, Miss Beverly stepped forward. "I'm calling the police," she said calmly, her phone still recording. "Second time this week. You've been warned." She asked you to leave. For a beat, everything stopped. Then Mama whipped around and snapped, "This isn't your business. This is family." Miss Beverly didn't blink. "You made it our business the second you turned this hallway into your personal stage." In the distance, I heard sirens. Mama turned back to me. Her voice dropped into that manipulative whimper I knew too well. "Amina, stop this. Don't let it go this far. You want your mother to have a heart attack right here on the floor? You want your uncle arrested? Is that what you want for Christmas?" And for a brief moment, just a breath, I felt the old guilt creeping in. But then I remembered the dinner table. The spreadsheet. The way they laughed while I quietly paid their bills. I took a slow, steady breath. "I want you to leave," I said. "You shouldn't have come here." 2 police officers arrived minutes later. One asked if I lived there. I nodded. Yes. They're my family. I've told them to leave before. They keep coming back. They put their hands on me. I don't feel safe. The second officer checked with Ms. Beverly, who played the recording, Reggie grabbing me. Mama slamming her hand near my head. It was all there. That was enough. The first officer turned to them and said, "You need to leave. Now. This is harassment. She has the right to press charges if you come back. Family or not." Mama started crying. Daddy ranted about disrespectful children and soft cops. Uncle Reggie mumbled something under his breath, something about how I'd regret this. The officer didn't blink. He took Reggie's ID and issued a formal citation for harassment. Standing there, watching that man who had mocked me since I was a teenager now staring at the floor while a uniformed officer read him his rights, it did something to me. For once, I wasn't the one being shamed. As they were walked to the elevator, Mama clutched her chest, claiming she felt dizzy. The officer offered an ambulance. Daddy said he'd take her to the ER himself. I heard later that her blood pressure really had spiked. She spent the night in the hospital. The bills were high. Daddy was livid. Uncle Reggie didn't show up at his usual bar for a while. For a few days after that hallway incident, I waited for something. A blow-up, a phone call, another unexpected knock. But instead, there was silence. No voicemails, no posts, no vague subtweets. The family group chat went dark. At first, the silence felt heavy, like the moment right after a siren cuts off, when your ears still ring from the chaos. I didn't trust it. My body was still braced for the next wave. But then it shifted. The silence started to feel like something else. Space. I still heard about them, of course. Word got back through cousins, mutual friends. Whispers passed along like gossip in church pews. Mama had a follow-up visit after her ER scare. The doctor told her, point blank, that if she didn't lower her stress, she was heading straight into something worse. Without my quiet contributions, she had to drop the spa days and gym sessions she used to post about. She reportedly asked a coworker for help with setting up a budgeting app and learning how to manage her auto-pays. Daddy had to sit on the phone for hours with subscription companies, waiting on hold, resetting passwords. For the first time, he couldn't just say, "Call Amina, she knows how to do this." He griped about the hospital bill and Uncle Reggie's citation, but this time, there was no one else to blame. No one to carry it. As for Uncle Reggie, his reputation took a hit. He didn't go to jail, but the damage was done. People had seen the video. They knew. You can't play the funny uncle card when folks know you got cited for harassing your niece outside her apartment. Even my sisters had to adjust. Keisha posted fewer selfies from concerts. Tanika stopped tagging herself at pop-up brunches and started sharing posts about saving, hustling, and stacking for the future. Without me covering the last-minute emergencies, they were on their own for the first time. That's what finally clicked for me. My boundary didn't just make me grow up. It forced them to. Once the adrenaline faded, I crashed a little. The quiet gave space for things I'd buried, old pain, old patterns. The jokes that weren't jokes. The little barbs passed off as love. The years I believed that being the reliable one meant swallowing everything. So I did something I'd been putting off for years. I booked a therapist. In our first session, she asked me, "When did you learn that your role in the family was to be the fixer?" I didn't have a neat answer, but the question stuck. I also found an online support group, a community where people told stories that felt uncomfortably close to mine. Stories about parents who weaponized guilt, relatives who turned love into a leash, siblings who only reached out when they needed help. There, I saw words I'd never used before. Manipulation, emotional abuse, financial control. Reading them didn't change the past, but they gave me language. They gave me clarity, and clarity is the first step toward healing. Months passed. Then, out of nowhere, Mama emailed me. No subject line. Just, "I'm sorry things got so bad between us. I still don't agree with how you handled everything, but I miss you. I hope you're okay." It wasn't the apology I wanted, but it was something. I didn't respond right away. When I finally did, I kept it short. "I'm okay. I hope you're taking your health seriously. If we ever talk again, it will need to be different. No guilt. No yelling. No pretending the past was just a joke. I'm open to a conversation someday, preferably with a therapist present." But I'm no longer paying for my place at the table. Hitting send didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like locking the door on the old version of us and leaving only a tiny window cracked for something healthier if it ever decided to show up. I don't know what happens next. Maybe we'll build something smaller, something honest. Maybe we'll stay low contact. Maybe I'll spend every holiday from here on out eating Chinese food and watching bad rom-coms with Trina. All I know is this. For the first time in my adult life, my peace doesn't depend on other people's moods. I pay my bills for myself. I spend time with people who don't weaponize the word family. I no longer measure my worth by what I provide. I no longer confuse silence with love. And I'm not grateful to just be allowed in the room. I stand in my own space, fully. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Family is not a free pass to disrespect you. Love without respect is just control dressed up in concern. And boundaries aren't betrayal, they're self-respect with teeth. Sometimes the strongest revenge is not a slammed door, it's a quiet exit. It's building a life so whole that the ones who tried to control you can't even find a way back in. And if you're standing at your own door right now, wondering whether it's okay to say no, it is. Have you ever been the silent supporter? The one who gave, and gave, and gave, until there was nothing left for yourself? If this story echoes even a part of your journey, you're not alone. Sparkles, take a moment. Reflect. What boundaries have you been afraid to set? What role have you outgrown? Speaking head, start the conversation. Share the story with someone who needs to hear it. A friend, a sibling, maybe even your past self. Stop sign, and most importantly, know that you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to choose peace over performance. You're allowed to protect your energy, even from people who say they love you. Because love without respect isn't love. And family isn't defined by who shares your blood, but by who honors your boundaries.